Good afternoon. Now, brief introduction. I will give it. Our 15th Finance Commission of India. Prior to this position, he presided as chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee, responsible for setting targets for the government to reduce fiscal deficits. He also served as member of the upper house of the parliament, that is Rajya Sabha, from 2008 to 2014. Mr. Singh had a long and distinguished career as a member of the Indian Administrative Service before his entry into politics and fiscal policy leadership. He served as expenditure secretary, revenue secretary, secretary to the Prime Minister of India, among other senior leadership roles. He had also served as member of the erstwhile Planning Commission. On the academic front, he is a member of the governing board of the Nalanda University and chairperson of its endowment committee. Mr. Singh has a recurring eminent guest lecture at prestigious academic institutions and universities like Columbia, Yale, Stanford, and London School of Economics. So, other speakers of this panelist on this session, Mr. Manjeev Puri, Mr. Chanchal Sarkar, and Dr. Uddhab Pyakurel. So, I hand over to the chairman, Mr. N.K. Singh, to proceed further.
Well, thank you very much, Foundation, which under the distinguished leadership of Charan Singh has served a very important purpose in focusing our attention to issues not only domestic, but issues which have a wider implication. The fact that he's doing this conference on Indo-Nepal Economic Relations could not have come at a more important time. This is a time when the world is undergoing significant geopolitical changes. This is a time when the reconfigurations are taking place in the broader stream of economic and regional cooperation. This is a time when, given uncertainties of multiple kinds, the role of multilateral institutions and the global financial architecture is under increasing scrutiny by the stakeholders, and to see what value there is in being able to do so. So I think that I must compliment the Egrow Foundation for this very timely initiative for this Indo-Nepal Economic Conference, focusing attention on the challenges and the opportunities. This panel, which I am privileged to chair, focuses specifically on regional cooperation between India and Nepal. Without going into greater detail and analysis, there is no doubt that the scope for regional cooperation, particularly BIMSTEC, is enormous and has been underutilized. Underutilized in terms of the fact that, consider that in terms of overall terms, Nepal's trade imbalances remain significant. The infrastructure and other developments remain has a huge scope for being able countries to join together in the matrix of regional cooperation to improve their reach. In terms of the other potential that regional cooperation has, not only in sharing and not only in terms of movement of people, but in cooperating in areas which are areas of nascent rising technology, in terms of impartation of human skills and upgrading education and health parameters to be able to derive the maximum benefit from regional cooperation. And I think that whereas India and Nepal are a long way to go in realizing their great potential, I would certainly focus on 2 or 3 areas as we go forward. First, I think that following the last big announcement made during the recent visit of the Nepal Prime Minister on the India's willingness to enter into an agreement for 10,000 megawatts of hydropower will require massive infrastructure development to be able to garner the full benefit of this. Nepal's potential for area of renewable and green energy is huge. Nepal's potential in terms of agricultural practices, in terms of the areas, remain a very important source. So I think that the scope for regional cooperation is enormous and underutilized. Fortunately, to discuss many of these complex issues, we have a very illustrious panel before us, and I welcome all the panel members. Dr. Lokraj Barat, who has done enormous work in the area of Indo-Nepal relations and regional diplomacy. Manjeev Singh Puri, my old friend, who has done enormous work, not only as a formidable diplomat in, in multiple ways, but is continuing to contribute even to areas like fostering more meaningful multilateral development banks' evolving role. Welcome him. He has an enormous experience in what to do to strengthen both bilateral and regional cooperation. To Chanchal Sarkar, who has great expertise in regional cooperation strategies. To Dr. Uddhab Pyakurel, whose scholarly work on socio-political dynamics provides the academic backdrop for a discussion which is before us. So we thank that I welcome all the panelists, and may I take this opportunity of inviting our first distinguished panelist, Dr. Lokraj Barat, to make his comments, observations, or presentation. We have roughly an hour to go. So what I suggest we do is make a very short initial comments. After that, it would be of enormous value if there can be a more meaningful interactive session to follow within this limited time frame which we have. So all yours, Dr. Lok Raj Barat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your kind words. Actually, I'm not an expert on South Asian regional cooperation because though in the beginning idea was mooted in 80s, early 80s, I were very much enthusiastic and we are involved in different kinds of exercises. And a lot of books have been produced, a lot of documents have been produced on different aspects, trade, communication, various aspects. We're very enthusiastic, and that enthusiasm is no more today, at least for me, because I'm slightly disillusioned when I look at the situation after 1985, after the inauguration of the SARC process in Bangladesh, Dhaka, and of course everybody was enthusiastic and every government and intellectuals, academics were all involved in different kind of exercises. But of course, we could not develop it, we could not evolve there are different aspects of regional cooperation. If you talk of bilateral relations with Nepal, India-Nepal relation, for example, there is extreme kind of cooperation and mutuality of interest, respect for the mutuality of interest. That is different aspect. But when you talk of the larger context, South Asian regional context, of course, we have not made much progress. Even now, the SARC summit is not being held for the last when it was in 19 for the last 7-8 years. Nepal is still the chairman of the SARC process. That's of course the beginning. There was one of the very interesting contribution of the idea of regional cooperation is that people in the region knew regional. It tried to create regional consciousness, but it lacked the regional commitment to the evolution of cooperation. This is one aspect. Consciousness, of course, is there. Everybody talked of regional cooperation, a very good thing. We must go ahead, without which we cannot prosper. That is accepted. But in reality, when you talk of the government-to-government relations and etc., the bilateral relation, some countries have strained bilateral relations that have created impact, negative impact on the evolution of SARC. Even other countries also are slightly, they try to go beyond the region. They try to have contact with other powers of Europe, America, elsewhere. But they are not so much concerned about developing relation with the countries of the region. This is one aspect. Because regional cooperation means is a desire to be together for better future of the region. If that is lacking and trying to bypass the whole process, it is not likely to develop as a real cooperative enterprise. That's why many features this region, of course, had the most advantageous region from the regional cooperation point of view, because economically we were integrated before 1947. During the British time, all the countries were together, more or less integrated kind of economic system. That is slightly disintegrated today. Of course, we have good relation with Bangladesh, good relation with India. That is bilateral. Of course, we need good bilateral relation for good regional cooperative relationship. That is prerequisite. Good bilateralism is a prerequisite for regionalism. That is accepted. But when you talk of the larger context, I think we have not been able to do much. That's why from civilizational point of view, from economic point of view, from social point of view, from other point of view, from people to people contact, etc., it is the most advantageous situation we have. But we have not been able to take the advantage as we wished when we trying to talk of give the idea of regional cooperations. That's why now what are the perspectives? As the chairman suggested that we should be very brief so that other people may intervene and try to raise the issues on the subject. That's why I have tried to be more precise. One of the scholars, I think Muhammad Ayub, I still remember his article long ago. He published that article in 1974. The primacy of politics has prevailed. We talk of regional cooperation, economic, this, that, everything. But the politics as such has determined the primacy of politics. I quote his view. I read that article long ago, and that he was referring to the SARC process at the time. I still believe that the politics has determined everything. And the strategic considerations, bilateral relations, strained relations have created negative impact on the growth of SARC. SARC means regional cooperation. Now we talk of BIMSTEC, isolating some other countries from the region. The original members of SARC, including Pakistan, Afghanistan, they are altogether there are now 8 countries. But in BIMSTEC, these 2 countries are left out. But even as the chairman was just referring to BIMSTEC, it has not progressed much. That is still so many years. Even the meetings have not been held. Some projects have been identified. That's why, it is very, as a political science student, sometimes I am totally disillusioned with the SARC process. And I wrote a long article about 20 years ago that was published by South Asian Survey, published from IIC. The problem of that article title was "The Problem of Becoming a Community." That is still included in the book. The problem of becoming, what is the community and what is association? Association is an organization. Because when we are trying to inaugurate SARC, there was a problem. It was initially it was called South Asian Regional Cooperation. Then people said that South Asian is very big. Then we need an organization. They added then South Asian Association Regional Cooperation, SARC, AA. That's how it was developed. But The organization part, I think, is lacking, and I think all over the world, the very idea of regionalism is not developing. Slightly, it is being disintegrated, even in European Union. Of course, they have their own. Even ASEAN, they meet, they have their thing, they have their own backdrop. Our ASEAN situation, our situation is totally different. We try to emulate other regions, but we could not actually give the shape on the ground, on the basis of the realities of the region. That is one of the unfortunate part of it. And but many people try to just avoid the contentious part and try to talk only of regional cooperation, very good, everything, and very good, yes, everybody likes to have it because it believes in cooperation, friendship, understanding, trust, etc. That's why I'm slightly disillusioned, Mr. Chairman, for the last 20 years, and I don't see that kind of prospect as we try to develop in the beginning the SARC process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lokraji, because you have dealt both with a quest and also the reality. And I think that the issue of the primacy of politics, which you have emphasized, is indeed, whatever one might say, the hard reality. And we have to really find avenues within this framework to make it meaningful for all stakeholders in the region. And now look to you, Manjeev, for making your comments and observations, given your rich experience, both on the issues of international diplomacy, bilateral diplomacy, and a very keen understanding of the economic dynamic processes. Over to you, Manjeev.
Thank you very much, sir. I am extremely honored to be on a panel chaired by you, sir. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for giving me so many opportunities on so many subjects. Most grateful to you. Sir, on a lighter note, if I may tell you, we have Chanchal Sarkar here, who used to be India's director at the SARC Secretariat when I was India's ambassador to Nepal. So the issues of politics and their primacy and what happens within that Chardiwari, Chanchal would be best in a position to tell us about it. So I want to make a very different point here. Let me lighten this mood a little bit also. Sir, this is the first time I have seen an India-Nepal conclave in which, other than the friends of ours who have come from Nepal and Professor Mahendra Lama, there is nobody else who attends India-Nepal conclaves, but are all people who are experts here on India, global economics, regional economics, and financial and trade services. I am very happy. Professor Charan Singh, to you and Achut Wagle, huge compliments. Because Professor Baral, while we all understand the primacy of politics, we understand the roti beti, we understand all of these. Let me tell you, Mr. N.K. Singh's father was involved when we built the Kosi Dam. So, life goes on like that. We all have our relationships. Point I'm trying to make is, this is a gathering which is allowing us to do a little bit more than just this politics. We know it. We know it's also a breaking force. But can we do something in the light of globalization, which no matter people talking about globalization, receding, this, that, for us in the developing world, the genie is thankfully out of the bottle. We are all doing what we are as a result. If in 1990, Nepal had not started issuing passports, and if today 25% of Nepalese citizens were not overseas, and I don't mean India, I mean the US, Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia, the Gulf, and everywhere. If Nepal wasn't among the top 5 countries in terms of remittances to GDP ratios, sir, your situation in Nepal would not have been the way it is. And let me tell you, we too are hugely benefited as a result of globalization. If today we say that the World Bank's director is somebody of Indian descent, if we talk about CEOs, etc., some part of it is their intrinsic merit, but a lot of it is got to do with globalization. The fact of Indian companies doing what they are, both offline as well as on the ground out there. And sir, you would be very surprised. We were in Nepal 2 days back on a startup summit. And let me share this with people. We in India talk of startups and our mind goes to just one sector, IT, fintech, and all this. But there's so many things that are happening in life. Sir, I don't know how many of you actually go for street food. Do you know what is the most selling street food item in India today? No, sir, it's not samosa and it's not dosa. Yes, madam, Momo. And which do you think is the most famous Momo brand in India? No, not Dolma. Dolma is also good, but not that. It's Wow Momo. Sir, Wow Momo has 700 franchises in India. It's run by a young Nepalese in India called Binod Homgai. His father is an author from the communist tradition in Nepal, and in fact tomorrow they are having a seminar here where a former foreign minister from the Communist Party is participating. This is the kind of thing. And now I want to turn around to say something else. The Nepalese and Nepal has changed, sir. Today's skilling in Nepal is at a level where Nepalese are not only living in the US and Europe, etc., their companies are contributing hugely. The company called Leapfrog in Kathmandu, which did most of the work for the US government in terms of the systems put in place for tackling COVID. So these are the kind of things that young people have done on their own. My little request at that summit, and I'll reiterate it here. Guys, we know the politics, but you know each other. We know each other. We are losing sight of each other. So what do I see? I'm sure that must have been the case in your time, but certainly in my time. Any company in India which came on steam and became somewhat important, its first overseas step was Nepal. Today, sir, if a company in India comes on steam, feels good, has captured the domestic market, if it's done really well, it wants to go to the United States. If it's not done that well, it wants to go to Dubai or to Singapore. Why can't I get people to go to Nepal? And similarly, the Nepalese are investing in India. There's absolutely no doubt. Sir, the sponsors of this seminar is PNB, which has 20% stake in one of Nepal's largest banks. Incidentally, SBI is also there. And LIC, which is a major player in Nepal. Nepalese are there in India. They know India, sir. They are here quietly. They're doing various things. And I'm very happy that the treaty relationship we have gives us this opportunity of taking things forward. But we in India, and I leave this thought always with my Nepalese colleagues, what are you doing to project yourself to India? What are you doing even in terms of tourism? Everybody knows Pashupatinath. वहां तो हम जाएंगे ही जाएंगे, अपने आप जाएंगे, मुक्तिनाथ जाएंगे क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री मोदी वहां गए थे. लेकिन आप क्या कर रहे हैं? What are you doing in terms of mice, weddings, this, that? It's not just Delhi. Small towns in the vicinity of Nepal, their per capita incomes, their purchasing powers are so many. Why do you do that? So I leave this thought very big with you. Now I want to just touch one or two things. The power sector, the water sector. The greatest thing that I'm most proud of during my 3 years ambassadorship there was that we got the first hydropower station, India-Nepal cooperation, Arun 3, actually moving. It's now 60% done. And when it starts producing 900 megawatts, first project, some 700, 800 odd megawatts in a second, can you see the sea change? Sir, you will laugh at this. When I went to Kathmandu in 2017, there used to be tremendous amount of power shortages. And then we signed a number of cross-border power line transmissions, etc., etc. And people used to jokingly say, Kathmandu is powered by India, in the literal sense of the term. So this has completely changed. It has completely changed. The Nepalese have been able to marshal, after 50 years of procrastination, hydel power in various ways. A grid has been set in. As they do more, sir, this cooperation will have benefits for us. It will have benefits for Bangladesh, which is the immediate thing we have done in terms of this 10,000 megawatts transfer. We'll also have possibilities of water in the subcontinent, especially for a country like India where water stress is truly important. I just leave the thought with my Nepalese colleagues. We understand politics. We all understand politics. But at the end of the day, the people, the society, and even the leaders must understand where to draw the line in your own interest. And it's in your own interest that you have to remember. Remember, we are talking about Heidelberg today. And why are we talking about it in a big way? Because of climate change, because of the need to move away from fossil fuels, etc. But believe me, there are technological developments on the anvil which in 20, 30 years may make this entire idea of where to fuel things from maybe totally obsolete, and we don't know. So remember, you have these opportunities. Time actually flies. So you need to do what you can. And I leave these thoughts very strongly with you. But now, sir, please give me 2 minutes to talk about a subject where I had the real privilege of sort of being encouraged by you, sir, and which is global action. So when we began this seminar, the foreign minister of Nepal was here, but Professor Achut Bagle was speaking most eloquently and very forcefully on the issue of climate change and how it is affecting us all. Where is the crux of this entire matter? Whether we like it or not, the greatest enabler is money. What we do ourselves, our lifestyle, etc., is again a matter for us. We need to do it. But without this great bridge of money, you are not going to take things forward. We recently had this conference of parties at Baku, supposedly the COP for finance. In 2009, the developed world agreed for $100 billion a year to help developing countries tackle climate change. With great difficulty, that figure got raised to $300 billion in the year 2024. Obviously, disappointment. Obviously, a feeling that ambition has not been reached. But let us also, sitting here as developing countries from South Asia, recognize that this is a global power game and it doesn't work so simply. Why is that the case? You know the elections in the United States, so we don't know where a quarter of the global economy and where it will go. It will also have politics primacy at its end. The Europeans are facing tremendous headwinds in terms of their economy. Who's going to contribute? It's very easy to make the demands, but let's understand. That doesn't mean you should not make the demand. And so I come to the point which I want to tell you, and something that I've had the privilege of even working with Mr. N.K. Singh. We have to look at innovative ways. Now, Nepal, unlike India, is somewhat well positioned to obtain multilateral funding. He led a panel of G20 experts, and then there have been other panels, which in all probability in the coming years should see an expansion of the capital base of the multilateral development banks. Of course, I say so well under advice, because on the 20th of January, there will be a change in the most important economy in the world, and I am nobody to make procrastinations about what they will do or not do. Having said this, so Nepal is well positioned. You are still an LDC transiting to a mid-income country. You have opportunities to be able to latch on to global funds. But remember, as a country with 30 million people, a flight from the eastern part of Nepal to the western part of Nepal being longer than Delhi to Bombay, the same jet aircraft flying, you can't really go about saying you're a small country, and you know that. The LDC world is also changing. The SIDS world is also recognizing who are the biggies among us. We don't want them there. And so therefore you have to find ways of looking at innovative ways of raising capital, even for the most important thing, development, which in Nepal will have to be sustainable given your geography, given the nature of South Asia itself. You will have to do it. And so I leave with you this big thought. Let us cooperate on what we can do in terms of pushing the multilateral institutions, the development banks, etc., to work innovative solutions for lowering the cost of capital. We are all capital scarce economies. India is capital scarce. I don't have to talk anything about Nepal. That being the fact, you need Western capital and you need to reduce its cost. That's one area. Secondly, let me tell you, while India may have its issues in terms of global capital attracting them to India, for you in Nepal, India is a good source. What are you doing in terms of building innovative mechanisms by which you leverage availability of private capital in India? Think of that. I leave this thought strongly with you. I spoke day before yesterday at the Nepal Financial Services Summit and mentioned the same thing to all the leading bankers, etc. What are you trying to do? Because we may have our problems, but you are integrated with our economy. Our rupee and the Nepalese rupee are not pegged, but the rate has been maintained the same for 20, 30, 40 years, I don't know what. There is a linkage in the economies. You can leverage what we have here. And as we grow and pitch our economy, you are the best positioned country in the region to be able to leverage the Viksit Bharat, our ideas of growth for your growth and development. And you should try and plug your base. I will stop now. Happy to take questions. And again, as I say, we do all bow to the primacy of politics, but let's try and inject the politics of the region, of our countries also, with the importance of trade. And trade also influences the flag. It's not always the other way around. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Manjeev. You haven't disappointed me, as usual, in making exceedingly tangible suggestions. By the way, on a slightly lighter vein, when you have talked of the street food, if it means anything to all of you there, my present person whom I have in my house who cooks for me is from Nepal. And the quality of the cuisines which he puts forward is indeed very, very extraordinary. So I think that the street food stuff had a particular empathy for me. I will make some other comments, Jeev, on some of your very worthwhile suggestions, because many of them are exceedingly meaningful. But maybe I will do so towards the end in my summing up, giving some tangible thoughts also. I now move on quickly to you, Chanchal Sarkar. We know your expertise. We would greatly value your thoughts, Chanchal.
Thank you so much, sir. And it's a real honor for me to speak under your chairmanship and with such eminent speakers in the panel. So, sir, one other thing I wanted to tell that in Finance Ministry, I was leading one of the G20 finance track working group, which is called the Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion. So I just thought it may be appropriate to talk about the financial inclusion and G20 opportunities, how these are opportunities and how we have used it and where exactly we are and where we can go in this collaboration. Now, the entire world, including UN, has recognized that financial inclusion is an important enabler for achieving at least 7 SDGs out of 17. So therefore, the achieving SDGs is almost other name for achieving financial inclusion, and therefore, since the SDGs are an important objective of this region, which remains very, very important. Now, the GPFI, which is known as Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion under G20, it is the only group that works for the global partnership for financial inclusion, advancing financial inclusion, not only for G20 but beyond G20. Now, what happens is, like as sir, you know it very well, that even before we indulge into our significant first meeting in G20, India organized the Global South. Voice of Global South. Our Prime Minister where said that the concern of Global South is India's concern, and that's how the agenda of G20 was very much in that line, and you already know, sir, and everybody have seen that not only that we have vouched and African Union could join as a full member of G20 under India's presidency. And then when we saw that the financial inclusion and the gap between SDGs, that it's still roughly 1.5 billion people are still unbanked, and therefore India decided to adopt an agenda where the financial inclusion can be achieved through innovative method called digital public infrastructure, where the India's approach has been what is known as India Stack, like digital identity, then fast payment system, and data sharing, and then where India was ready to share with the world through G20 to how to use and leapfrog, as the BIS and the World Bank studies have shown that India could penetrate bank account opening from around 25% to around 80% in a span of 7-8 years, which otherwise it would have taken 50 odd years. So therefore, that has been possible with the help of this digital public infrastructure. So now India adopted these opportunities to share this digital public infrastructure, and then many countries were invited over and above G20. Nepal was very much part of it, and we are thankful that Nepal came and attended all this meeting and contributed, where we had achieved the agenda of having digital public infrastructure for advancing financial inclusion overall, and also the overall financial well-being. And that we have been, the whole G20 leadership had adopted unanimously the report of the digital public infrastructure for advancing financial inclusion. And in fact, we also organized for the Global South for exchange information, where Nepal also participated and other neighboring countries also participated in the exchange information on DPI and how to engage for advancing the benefits. So if you allow me to give some of the figures that how India benefited out of the India could issue that 1.38 billion digital ID. Now today the UPI is cost free, and today the monthly last month the transaction was more than 16 billion transaction, and there is a direct transfer of money that could save in 2022-23 alone around the $7 to $8 billion. Now, Ambassador had also spoken about the startup and fintech beyond fintech. So let me also talk about the fintech today. Digital economy India is going to be around 420 billion by 2026, and the fintech market today is around 115 billion and likely to be 420 billion by 2029. So therefore, and that will have huge opportunities and growth stories, and which that is a story. So there are scopes for cooperation. In fact, so if after having seen the India story, many countries have come forward to have MOUs on various payment systems and other issues. I'm happy to share that already we have these UPI lives are in more than 7 countries, including Singapore, UAE, Nepal, Bhutan, and to a limited extent with France. So we look forward, and this UPI collaboration is going on with at least 80 countries at various stages of development. And sir, if you allow me to say that there has been a significant traction of this approach, and you already know, sir, that in the last virtual summit, Honorable Prime Minister also had announced and committed $25 billion for the Social Impact Fund for implementing the digital public infrastructures to gain, which are scalable, interoperable, and able to solve problems, societal problems in in a massive way. So therefore, that the center, as an announcement of that Global South of Excellence Centers called Dakshin has already been established in RIS, where a lot of collaborative studies can actually take place, including those critical areas beyond finance, including the environment issue, then climate, and various other issues. Sir, you know better that how the emerging countries are required also to adopt certain path which are most appropriate to them by considering their local circumstances. And therefore, there is a need to collaborate and cooperate in all these areas, which it's today the growth stories are not supposed to come only a particular region because of innovative methods and such innovative technologies can dramatically change lives and growth stories, not necessarily one particular corner or typically on the developed countries. So therefore, there are huge scopes to engage in these areas, and there have been stories of engagement, not only the stories, but actually it has happened, and I'm sure if we continue to do so, and India remains committed for the needs of the global South, and would be happy to remain engaged. So, sir, if you allow me to stop here, and I'll take questions maybe as and when it comes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that you have given very robust examples of the broad issue of what technology can do to overcome many of the handicaps which the other infrastructure disabilities encounter. And the fact of a robust digital stack which we have, and its reach, not only in terms of what you have mentioned in the banking and the payment system, but in the overall relationship in the governance matrix, would be of enormous value to countries of the South, including Nepal, of what can be done to improve the quality of public spending by using technology in a more meaningful way, which can bring benefits directly to the people concerned. So thank you for those remarks, Chanchal. Can I now request Uddhab Pyakurel to, given his scholarly work, to make his observations?
Thank you,
Dr.
Chair. Thank you all for being here, and it is very important occasion for me to be in the panel together with my guru, Professor Lokraj Baral. I was quite hesitant to be in this panel, seeing the title itself, economic, but I thought this is good to even have some inputs from political, social angles as well. That is how I was in this panel very lately, I guess 2 days back only. Yes, very importantly, this session under this regional cooperation, we try to outline and we try to give a background of socio-political and even technological anecdotes because we have very limited time. And I totally agree with 2 arguments. For example, Professor Baral's pessimism on this regionalism, and also Ambassador Puri's assumption of being Nepal's best positioned country to talk about regionalism. I also feel like, for example, I generally take my students, master's student, to both the borders for observation, at least for 2 weeks or something, just to understand. And I keep updating myself what is happening in regional cooperation. Definitely, regional cooperation won't be coming all the way if you don't have good relationship. And I guess Nepal could be the best positioned country, as Ambassador Puri said, because until 1962, with the country, Nepal was having no border, in fact, neither towards Tibet nor towards India. Definitely towards India, even today you could say that no border meaning no closed border. I mean, yes, border is there, political structure is there, but it was the case. And today, that's how we position saying that at least while talking about SAARC or other regional cooperation, we need to have this kind of relation. I guess Nepal could be the best example for this, to take example of having this collaboration together with. And many things have already mentioned. For example, this fixing exchange rate between 2 rupee, Indian rupee and Nepali rupee. And there are many other things to be noted down while talking about regional cooperation thing. But the concern, I guess I refer to Professor Lokraj Baral again about his anxiety, and might be my anxiety in a different way. For example, Nepalese, meaning we ourselves are having sort of dilemma while talking about regionalism. For example, we never celebrate this openness between Nepal and India borders are concerned. We generally, if I try to look at this aspect, for example, Baral sir and myself were having a study a decade back. We visited 37 India-Nepal border points and tried to bring a book that is called Nepal-India Open Border Problem and Prospects. It was funded by two governments, in fact, in an indirect way, because BP Koirala Nepal India Foundation is our money, Indian money and Nepali money. And in that report, we outlined a couple of things. And if I remember correctly, I assume, for example, India's this cooperation or whatever border security concerns are largely so-called security oriented. And that very security seems to be very military way of security, not kind of informal way of security, I guess. And for Nepal, this is largely custom or revenue oriented security policy. For example, wherever, even if there is no counterpart from Indian side, we post this custom office just to have custom revenue. And then I don't know how much revenue we get, might be for a political scientist like me, whether it is revenue coming all the way from government or whether people benefits out of open border. I guess for Nepal this is the same. But state always concerned about revenue, stopping people coming to India for taking 5 kg of sugar or 30 kg of rice. This is kind of tendency we have. I referred this the Tibet border as well. Until 1962, it was open, and then onwards, every agreement Nepal and China is having is against this against this good relationship, meaning people to people relation. So largely today, either you talk about Nepal China or Nepal India, Kathmandu centric approach is being implemented while creating narrative, and our journalists, our academia like me also follow this very very capital given narratives. And if since we are talking about India Nepal, then Delhi creates a narrative about security concern, and Nepal creates again narrative again security plus custom oriented thing. So I don't know. And then even for example this exchange rate, if it was not the case, what could happen about Nepal? No one discussed, but we again talk about other things. So, and for me, for example, there are many concerns. Some of the concerns between Nepal and India, largely speaking about open border, our bureaucracy also, meaning bureaucracy at the border, sometimes custom office, sometimes even two security forces, Nepal police and India's security agencies also pose a couple of things. For example, there is always hangama regarding this trade, illegal trade or smuggling. Same thing. For example, supari. Everyone eat it. It is not a drug. But while we were doing study, supari was a huge case of smuggling between Nepal and now there is kerao, this beans. Again, this is the case. And it is illegally landed in Nepal, and once Nepali traders try to take it out from in the market, and there will be hue and cry. For example, fencidal is considered as medicine in India, and that is illegal in Nepal. So this is, we made problems, and that is how, where securities are more concerned, and they say illegal trade, this, that. Trading supari could be, how could it be smuggling between two countries? Very special relation we have. So these are the concerns to be taken care of. So I guess yes, definitely India. I can't speak much about India because this is Indian concern. But whatever I look from our research, and for example, for Nepal, we have to go away from this dilemma. Definitely, if we talk about regional integration, we have to celebrate open borderness and then kind of formal, informal, whatever trade we have together with India. So for this, might be many people consider me as open border fundamentalist. I respect this. Having said that, for example, you see, what happens, even if, this is for India to learn a bit. India is having some enemy type relation within neighbor, and also friendship like with Bhutan and Nepal. And definitely relations are always ups and down. Take an example of Nepal, India. Yes, in 2015, we have had tough kind of relation between two countries. But today, if you ask many Nepalese and Indian, they forget, because there is coming and going very much instrumental this. Then people to people relation help two countries to even have better relation in a year time. And if there is no communication between two people, or if people are not concerned, only this Delhi or capital oriented narratives are there in the name of regional integration, development, or whatever, then it is very difficult for people to understand this, and it is very difficult to even have better relation after having some problems between two neighbors. And problem is obvious. Since neighbors, we will have problem, but how to overcome? Meaning exchange, and meaning people to people relation, meaning then definitely trade, meaning then definitely this mobility or understanding each other. So I guess this is what could be kind of input from political sociological background for economists and even geostatistician or security concerned people, saying that yes, security might be something else, but this security challenge could be overcome if there is good people to people relation. And lastly, I recall one of the saying, for example, within India and Nepal also, we quite often, even Nepali side, say that we can go for this border wall. And there is one saying from Janet Napolieto. He was a former Arizonian governor, and he also worked for Homeland Security during Obama regime. He mentioned in a very candid manner, I mentioned this in our book as well, show me a 50-foot wall and I'll show you a 51-foot ladder. That is what is happening elsewhere. For example, Mexico. For example, for India, this is the concern for even India-Bangladesh border. You fence it, but there are ways if you don't deal with other concerns, and that will be kind of people to people relations. So I guess I should stop here, and I'll be happy to interact in the future too. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think there's, unfortunately, the clock tells me that there is a hard stop a couple of minutes away. So perhaps we may not be able to have the sort of interactive session which we had contemplated. But let me make a few closing observations, if I can. I think that the four panelists have brought out clearly important dimensions of both opportunities and challenges. I think that the word of caution on the primacy of politics brought out by Dr. Lokraj was a good, realistic starting point. But the fact remains that, as other speakers pointed out, that if there is one component which under whose impact the primacy of politics gets somewhat ameliorated, if not fragmented or melt away, is a primacy of the market, the primacy of economic and social development. I think that if that really takes a precedence, I think that to some extent, the sort of barriers which the primacy of politics at first sight would look, we must look at the opportunities. And from this point of view, I think that the 2 points made by Manjeev, he made number of points, but the two points which really struck me, I rather liked his phrase that there was a jocular remark that Nepal is powered by India. But can I reverse this story to say we look forward to India being powered by Nepal? And I want to point the Manjeev's reaching observations that look, we just 15 days ago, South Korea, Manjeev, concluded the IDA replenishment. And the IDA replenishment it does not meet the expectations, but it certainly is better than the exaggerated fears that IDA replenishment would not take place. And clearly, Nepal is would be a very, very important area to benefit. And I think that that should be fully explored, along with some of the other things that looking at the fact that the potential on the renewable energy, particularly hydel and other ways, which exists for Nepal, I think that very frankly, there is a huge opportunity to explore the multiple innovative ways of financing in terms of guarantees, in terms of hybrid capital, in terms of blended finance, and in terms of the new areas which the evolving matrix of the multilateral development banks. I'm not only talking of the World Bank group, but certainly the Asian Development Bank is also quite active. And I think that whatever can be done, I think that the economics of harnessing its renewable power could and will be able to finance credible sources of private financing, which should be explored, because the economic benefits are very obvious. And as we move along, I agree that if you are mindful of what Baku had, one important contribution is not so much the extent of public finance, but Baku has made an important contribution in terms of refining further the rules agreed in Paris on the carbon market and the carbon trading in multiple ways. And Nepal is very well positioned to take advantage of the evolving rules on carbon and carbon trading. So I think that Manjeev, you made some important points, and I really think as we go forward, they hold a huge opportunity. I think that as I look to the remarks of Chanchal, I think that Chanchal made the remarks on the increasing use of technology and digital stacks which we have, which Nepal is already benefiting, but there's a huge scope to go in which you can harness technology. And I think that the observations and suggestions made by Chanchal are exceedingly worthwhile and need to be taken to its logical conclusion. I think I couldn't agree more with Dr. Uddhab on the fact that the people-to-people cooperation in a regional framework has a value which goes beyond what economists would call beyond the arithmetic of calculation. And I think that everything should be done to be able to promote the great power of freer mobility of people, which we understand is the most natural form of globalization. So I think that this discussion of the four panelists have served the purpose of bringing out both the challenges, the current difficulties, the milieu, the uncertainties, but more importantly, the opportunities which lie ahead. yet to be realized. From this point of view, I want to congratulate the Egrow Foundation in having had this session on regional cooperation. I would strongly suggest to the Egrow Foundation that many of these ideas here are powerful enough to deserve a full day session itself, either in India or in Nepal at an opportune time. And we should pursue, for instance, the concept, in my view, of Nepal powering India. The optics of it is powerful enough for Nepal that India is really seeking how to get itself support in terms of renewable energy and its energy needs from Nepal instead of what has historically been the optics the other way around. So with these words, let me thank the organizers and I bring this panel discussion to a close. Thank you very much.
So we want to thank the chairperson, pass it on to the concerned authorities. So before we end this session, we want to present a small token of our affection and love to the chairman and the panelist. Although chairman is not present, we will deliver it at your place, sir, online. Online.
Sir, you're getting love, we're getting some boxes.
Thank you. Thank Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.